Welcome to The Favorites, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. We are an Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Kravitz, back at it with my peoples. The First Lady of the pod, Kendra Middleton, and the Prime Minister of DGen Nation, Stuckey. We're all a little foggier than usual post-Super Bowl, but we'll break it all down, put a nice cap on the season. Kendra, how much food did $1,000 get you at Hooters for the group? What was your final wings and Mott's count?
It was insane. I actually have a video clip that I should put up on socials today of how much food we had. We had 12 people, lots of drinks, lots of food. My final food count, I had 11 wings, 2 mozzarella sticks, 3 buffalo shrimp, a basket of fries, half of the veggie tray that came for the table, and a piece of chocolate cake.
Damn.
And 2 Diet Cokes with lemon.
I'm a little disappointed in the amount of mozzarella sticks that were consumed there, but you had a lot.
They didn't bring us more, or I would have had more.
You were trying to share with the group. How many people were you with?
There were 12 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stuckey, I know you go pretty hard for the Super Bowl every year. What was it like on your end?
Terrible. I had an awful Super Bowl because of the fourth quarter. The whole day was awful. I pre-ordered 150 wings for the bar. I pre-ordered them at noon, and they're supposed to get there at 6. It's 6:30, nothing. I call and they got the orders mixed up and never got my order. So I had to order again. They ended up getting there at like 8:30, and everyone was hungry. I bought so many squares of this big bar pool, and there was only like a 1 row and 1 column left. I got both twos. So there's thousands of dollars down the drain. And then my 5 like main positions on the game were I had the Seahawks under 25.5 total points, which I thought was gonna be good.
That's what we usually think.
And then I had under 3.5 touchbacks. So Drake Maye throws a pick 6 after 2 short field scores. There's a pick 6, and then there's a touchback after that. So then I have Hunter Henry prop. So I'm like, all right, well, at least they're getting blown out, and then the Pats are gonna get the ball. He gets a concussion and doesn't come in for the final drive. So it's Austin Hooper who gets the catches. So I had Henry over 16.5 longest catch. His longest catch was 16. Henry over 3.5 receptions. He ends with 3. Under 25.5 Seahawks. They score a pick 6 to go over in the fourth quarter. Under 3.5 touchbacks. There's 4 touchbacks because of that pick 6. And then my other main position was over 7.5 total runners in the game. There were 7. And there was no sneak from Varner. There was no one else on the Patriots ran it. They didn't get creative. So I lost. The only thing I got right was under longest punt return. Great. And then I had some Varner touchdown. But I even had what could have saved the day. I also had some all unders, which all got blown up in the fourth
And that
quarter.
was such an under game too, but it just
The fact that it was that
they got
yeah.
aggressive. The Pats got aggressive at the end, just trying to
And yet
salvage
couldn't
some
throw it to Henry,
respectability.
and then he gets a concussion. So
Yeah,
all unders got
we
blown
all
up.
did. I think we all did pretty bad. Did not hit the parlay. Kendra's leg of Drake Maye throwing a pick, the only one to come through. I saw the eating grin on Kendra's face when you mentioned Austin Hooper, because I know you were on Hoop, but I was combing
Dude.
through the app. We all sucked. Okay.
I also
So,
had defensive MVP, which could have saved the day, but nope. Any defensive player to get an MVP.
yeah, and
Jason
Witherspoon was
Myers
definitely
got
in contention.
screwed.
So let's just get to it. Let's just get to the main dish. We'll start with the MVP because Kendra's all up in arms over the kicker with a bunch of chip shots not getting MVP. I think if anybody other than Kenneth Walker, and it was pretty obvious throughout the game that if Seattle won, which they was never really a sweat that they were going to, that Kenneth Walker was going to claim MVP. I thought Devin Witherspoon, if you're just looking at things schematically and the basically the strip sack that he had that sealed the game, I think you could have made a case for him. Why Jason Myers? I mean, other than the fact that the guy hit a bunch of easy field goals, like how does that equate Super Bowl MVP status?
He had the most points. He did the things he was supposed to do. honestly, if it wasn't for the absolute breakdown of the offensive line in the second half, he he should have been my MVP. One, because I think he deserved it. Two, I think it would have been so funny. I needed it for the plot. It was the Super Bowl we deserved. It was the MVP we deserved. And for the hilarity of it all, he had an incredible first half, didn't miss. Extra points also his, my king. Him or the punter. Like
Yeah, the punter
that was
did
the
do a great
punter.
job.
Dude.
I knew that the game sucked when the punter started getting credit for the way he spun the ball off of his foot. I'm like, this is not going to go down as one of the all-time great Super Bowls. I was good with the way that it went as far as Walker getting it. He is the first running back that we've seen since Terrell Davis in Super Bowl 32 to take home Super Bowl MVP. Stuckey, do you think the voters got it right?
I mean, I guess it's a tricky one. I mean, the fact that Walker had such a successful day against that run defense, he deserves his flowers for that. But I mean, honestly, just the way that that game went, it feels like it should have been someone on the Seahawks defense. Uh, I mean, Drake Maye was miserable. He ends with the worst EPA in NFL history in any postseason. He was terrible again. I don't know what the Patriots' game plan was. What did they didn't do anything creative.
Nothing.
They
They were so unprepared for that game. It was
I
like
don't
they
know
didn't know
yeah,
the
what did
defense
they
they were
do?
playing.
What did they do for the past 2 weeks? They just drop back Drake May with that offensive line after and just pray.
Never
Uh,
mind the fact that Vrabel was one of the most aggressive coaches in the NFL all year. They've got a 4th and 1 midfield in the middle of that game, and they punt. That's not been their brand all year. It just felt like they played scared. They got away from who they were. And I do think the Drake May injury perhaps played a factor in this because we did see the story that he received an injection in his shoulder prior to the game. That means there was some real pain there. And I felt like he only got worse in terms of missing some throws that he's been making all year as the game went along, as that Toradol shot starts to wear off. It felt like that was an impact, in my opinion. Kendra, has that been a big conversation around your area?
Yeah, it's been a massive conversation just because all of the, people who are known to be very in the Patriots pocket up here were very adamant that it was fine. It wasn't going to be a story. It wasn't going to be a difference maker. I'm sorry. If you take a Toradol shot, it's not a nothing. It's not something you haven't been struggling with. It is, you don't choose to do that if something is not wrong. And I get that he was on the injury report and they wound up, taking him off and saying he was fine. I'm sorry. Getting a Toradol shot is not being fine. And so that's been like a big conversation up here. The other thing that's been a big conversation, I watched up to the first half before we hopped on here just to kind of make sure that I wasn't seeing things that I wasn't in the moment full of Hooters and in a daze. But Will Campbell was terrible. That was one of the worst performances that I've seen from him all season long. Him and Drake both, but it starts with Will Campbell. The other big story up here has been that he had just a disaster of a game and declined to speak to the media last night. So it seems like things are not all peachy keen up here at the moment, which you knew they would be, but in
I
ways that
saw
I wasn't
interviews with
expecting.
Drake. I saw interviews with him in the national media. Is there a specific sector of the media that he declined?
Will Campbell declined the
no,
Oh,
Will
media.
Will
Campbell.
Campbell. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. No, he was. You're right. He was terrible. The
He needs to
fact
move the
that
guard. Like
Yeah, he is a guard.
The
he's a
fact that
guard.
that May got sacked 6 times and Will Campbell couldn't block a tissue box last night, and I still couldn't get home on Demarcus Lawrence to record a sack was a little depressing.
I know I tailed you on that one. That was very depressing considering everything.
Oh, everybody else got involved. Don't worry. We had
Yeah.
Devin Witherspoon sacks and all of
Yeah.
that. Stuckey, how much of the lack of offensive firepower that we saw from New England do you put on the injury that we tried to kind of brush under the rug?
I mean, here's the rebuttal to that though, is that to what Kendra's saying, it may look like he looked against all of the top five defenses he faced in the playoffs. He's been horrible all playoffs, and he was horrible again. So, and this was another step up in class as far as the opposing defense that he faced. So he was terrible literally from start to finish in the playoffs. Again, when he finally had to face top defenses. So yeah, I there's definitely questions moving forward about, he was inching towards everyone saying like he might be a top 5 quarterback in the league. We might have rushed the judgment, and in the end, the schedule won. The schedule arguers all were proven right, and
How much of his struggles in the postseason do you think are related to him being hurt, though, or just the step up in class?
I mean, he what was he hurt in the against the
People are
Texans?
saying it's been for a few weeks now.
I just
I don't
figured it
know.
was the weather. I was willing to dismiss the lack of productivity because the guy was playing in blizzards for two
That's
thirds
kind
of
of
the
where I was at.
postseason.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't put it all on him either. The offensive line is still a problem. The wide receivers aren't elite at getting separation, but you cannot not come away from watching him in the postseason and say like he was missing wide open guys. He looked frazzled in the pocket. His lack of pocket presence and awareness was evident from the start. I mean, he did not look comfortable once under pressure since the Chargers game in the first round. So, yeah, and if you look, there's a clear difference in who the Pats faced during the regular season, the defenses they faced versus the playoffs. And Drake Maye's production fell off a cliff. And you can't blame it all on him. But I also find it amazing that Josh McDaniels has now been on the offensive staff of 10 teams that have made a Super Bowl since 2000, and they've scored a total of 3 points in the first quarter. 3 points in 10 Super Bowls in
That's
the
a
first
great
quarter.
stat.
That's embarrassing.
They came up with nothing. You have 2 weeks to prepare. There was nothing creative. You didn't try to, you know, get your wide receivers involved in the run game, try a trick play here or there, come up with something different schematically instead just drop Drake Maye back against this defense and hope and pray. What did they didn't come up with anything creative over the tweaks, and but it's pretty crazy. 20 years, 10 Super Bowls, 25 years, 10 Super Bowls, 3 first quarter points.
It's unfortunate that we don't have a game next week because the Patriots would be a great bet after getting blown out. This would be pretty on brand for the podcast to go back into the Patriots. Well, next year, though, we've got that trend that you can follow of teams coming off of a Super Bowl loss that really struggle. And Kansas City was the latest example of that this year. The Patriots early on next year could be a really strong fade candidate. So keep that in your back pocket for next year.
Everything went. Look, it's not a given that you're going to get back to the Super Bowl. Like if I think about all the quarterbacks really good quarterbacks that have only made one Super Bowl. Some have never made any Super Bowls. In order to get to a Super Bowl, unless you're like the elite of the elite, and a lot of times to get to a Super Bowl, you need a number of things to break your way, which they did for the most part with the Patriots. It was injuries. They were healthy for most of the year. They had a last place schedule that ended up being the easiest of any team this century. And then in the playoffs, they get, a backup quarterback in the AFC Championship game. You have all of the elite quarterbacks in the AFC were taken out or didn't make the playoffs. This was every single thing broke the Patriots' way this year for them to get to the Super Bowl. Next year, guess what? You got a first place schedule. You now have a target on your back. You're probably not going to have as good of injury luck, and I doubt that they get back there next year. So this was the year, and they got to the Super Bowl, but give credit to them for taking advantage of the schedule. But you're not going to get Jarrett Stidham in the AFC Championship game ever again, and now you have a first place schedule, and things are going to get much more difficult for the Patriots next year.
Usually after a team wins a Super Bowl, we just automatically install them as the favorites and somewhat overwhelmingly. And it doesn't feel like that is going to be the case this year. I do believe they are tied with the Rams. Yeah, they're both at plus 950 to win the Super Bowl next year are the Seattle Seahawks. But typically when you see this team they go through this run in the playoffs and they hoist the Lombardi, there's there's that conversation the next day of, man, like who's going to beat this team next year? Is there a dynasty forming and all of that? And it doesn't feel like this is that year. Definitely for the Patriots as being on the losing side, but for Seattle as well. Kendra?
I was gonna say I hate to continue to be a Pats troll, but the second the total comes out for next year, I might be on the under. Like you can't tell me that there's not going to be some sort of one weird regression. There's no way they're going to spend money. I don't see them going out and actually doing the right thing by getting a new left tackle and moving Will Campbell to guard. Like I just don't see them doing the right things to get better, and their schedule is about to get a lot more difficult.
Do you
11
know
and
I
a
blame
half,
for all this?
probably, I would think.
What
What
stuff?
do you say?
Do you know I blame for the? I mean, that Super Bowl was horrendous, by the way. One of the worst Super Bowls I've ever
It was
watched.
terrible. I turned it off with 2 minutes to go. I don't think I've ever turned a Super Bowl off.
But nothing happened for the first. Like what was the most memorable play of the first half?
I have to say, it got to a point where we were all sitting in Hooters, which was a sold out, packed out Hooters, by the way. And it was so silent that we could hear them doing dishes in the back.
That's amazing. What was the first? Oh, I also had 0-0 first quarter tie, which was amazing. Ended at 3-0. Even the Patriots had they kicked the touchback to start the game. Like you couldn't you let them start at the 35. So, but what was the most memorable play of the first half?
That punt that the Seahawks punter had, that was an absolute bomb.
Yeah, I agree with our producer David Payne and our
Charlie
private
Puth's
chat.
national
Charlie Puth's national anthem, the flyover, epic. 10 out of 10.
No, but you know who I blame for all this? I mean, partly it's John Harbaugh for kneeling down. He could have, if he just ran a play and then kicked the field goal, the Ravens could have been here. But I blame the Bills. It's always the Bills' fault. The Bills, number one, if they get that dumb fourth down stop when Trevor Lawrence's shin hits. And then they have to beat the Jags, which is fine. I mean, I think if the Jags won that game, I think the Jags were going to go to the Super
You know
Bowl.
who didn't look this shitty against the Seattle Seahawks this season? The Jacksonville Jaguars, bitch.
Well, they look really good against Seattle.
I think the Jags were going to go to the Super Bowl, and they would have given us their offense would have at least looked competent, and Liam Cohen would have had an actual game plan.
Yeah,
But
that was.
But whatever, the Bills would have put up a fight against Seattle. So the Bills, whatever, they beat Jacksonville. We all hated that was the matchup, that we put the Bills and Jags in.
What's the point of them winning their division if they're going to pull the Bills? Like, that's such bullcrap. We seriously need to get to a point where it's like a schoolyard pick'em. You get the best in the conference, you pick who you want to play first, and then the second place gets to pick. That's the only way that this is going to solve, and this bullshit's going to end.
But yes, the Jags got screwed. So, but the Bills win. Okay, that's fine. So then they go to Denver, and not only did they lose, they took the Broncos right to the brink. So Bo Nix gets hurt and is out for the year. So then Jared Stidham has to start in the AFC Championship game. And that's how we get the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So in the end, it's always the Bills' fault.
Yes. And to your point about the first half, let me just run through the play-by-play here. Field goal for Seattle. Punt, 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 punt. Field goal, punt, 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 field goal, end of half. That was the first half of the Super Bowl.
Amazing.
That is what we witnessed last night.
And then you get a long halftime. So, and then the third quarter.
It felt so long.
Yeah, in the third quarter, like the lead up to the Super Bowl too is so long. Like the afternoon, the 3:30 to 6:30 it feels like it's like 10 hours. So you're waiting for the game, and then nothing pretty much happened until like 8:30 at night. So it was that'll go down as one of the worst Super Bowls I can ever remember. And then I also lost every single bet that I made. So nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, great way to end the season.
In the fourth quarter, so like all my bets were looking okay. In the most boring game ever. So I was like, well, at least some of my bets look good. And then, of course, everything blows up in the fourth quarter. So I will not look back fondly on this Super Bowl or my betting performance. I will
never rewatch this one. I can guarantee that. One other note, I know that he wasn't ever going to win MVP in this game because he didn't need to be elite last night. And that is the quarterback of the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, who goes completely overlooked in our entire dialogue here.
He wanted to throw a pick so
Yeah, he was
bad.
trying.
Oh, he was definitely trying. He wanted to get involved in that pick parlay that we had. But if you look at the waves of impact that Darnold acquisition created, it's pretty outstanding. So the Seahawks win a Super Bowl. That's first and foremost. The Vikings fired their general manager. The Raiders wound up with Geno Smith. They were so bad with him. They get the number 1 overall pick, which is going to be Fernando Mendoza. And then the Seahawks offensive coordinator becomes their new head coach, and he admitted that in the postgame interview. The catalyst to all of this was Seattle choosing Darnold over Geno is what set all of this into motion. It's just amazing when you watch the ripple effect of Sam Darnold winding up with the Seattle Seahawks.
I put this in our notes, but him being the first of his draft class, quarterback wise, to win a Super Bowl between him, Lamar, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen, hilarious. Hilarious, by the way. I did see a really good meme that someone sent in our group chat, and it was like Sam Darnold and this woman in the corner, and then like a person sitting in the back in a cuck chair with a Jets hat on, and the girl is like, "Is this okay?" It's just the Jets in the back in the cuck chair. I thought that was so good.
You mentioned Darnold, and I mean, yeah, that's an important note. I mean, he wasn't great in the
No,
season.
he was not great.
He was actually pretty bad, I thought. I mean, what did he finish? 19 of 38 for 200 yards. Um, I think the biggest storyline of the entire season and of the Super Bowl, which is a microcosm of this season, was you mentioned the decision to move on from Geno and bring in Darnold, which is important, but the decision to move on from Pete Carroll and to go to Mike McDonald, right? This is a guy that won a Super Bowl that was, beloved in Seattle, to make that aggressive decision to move on to a new coach. And I think that was the key storyline of the season. We've talked about this ad nauseum, right? Ben Johnson, his impact not only to Chicago, but his loss and that impact to Detroit and what happened with them. Liam Cohen, not only his impact on Jacksonville, but how much Tampa missed him. And you can go on and on about these coaches and the coaching changes. And then the most impactful of all was McDonald going to Seattle and the defense that he was able to craft and lead this team to a Super Bowl. And that it just shows the impact of coordinators, coaches, and change can have on an organization in just one season in the NFL. And then you look, I think that's, again, going to be a huge storyline going into next year. I didn't even mention, I mean, you could talk about the Eagles, right? The offensive coordinator mess that they had all year and how that ended up costing them. But you go into next year, excuse me, you have with 10 new head coaches, right? You have LaFleur at Arizona, Stefanski in Atlanta, Minter in Baltimore, Brady in Buffalo, Monken in Cleveland, Kubiak in Vegas, Halfley in Miami, Harbaugh in New York, McCarthy in Pittsburgh, Saleh in Tennessee, and then you go on to all the coordinator changes. What one of our jobs is going to be, and I think this is going to be key to win total betting futures, is determining which one of those hires or handful of hires is going to have the most positive and also the least positive or the most negative impact to that team. And
It's like the Lions effect from last year.
Yeah, and
We saw both of
huge.
their coordinators leave and they missed the postseason, like that was the number one thing that I thought about when their win total came out.
Yep, like Mike McDaniel going to the Chargers as the new offensive coordinator with their, now healthy offensive line. How much of an
Allegedly.
impact does that have? There's so many storylines, and you can tell that NFL teams, I think, are now being more aggressive when it comes to coaching changes and moving on from guys and understanding the impact that coordinator moves, head coaching changes can have. And that was extremely evident this season and ended up leading to a Super Bowl in Seattle because of McDonald.
Think you may have just identified our first episode theme in the off season is trying to track down what those coaching moves are. You detailed a lot of them, but figuring out how to value that going into next season is going to be extremely valuable. We'll keep the conversation rolling, but first, a word from our very own Kendra Middleton.
The Favorites podcast has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code FAVORITES when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code FAVORITES when signing up and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
All right, Kendra, post Super Bowl, loaded up on wings and mozzarella sticks and shrimp. Didn't even know Hooters had that.
They're so good.
What's on your mind?
One, Monaco not being the entrance song. He went with the song everybody thought he would open with, which is so boring. I was like disappointed in that. I thought that the set for the halftime show was very catered to the TV audience, which makes sense. Like, that's where most people are going to be watching. I expected more of the like Shakira style stage, but I liked that it was interactive, which led me to, I know that you guys have been chronically online like myself, and we all saw that the bushes that were around the set were actually people dressed as bushes. Could you imagine being on a gummy dressed like a bush, going to do the Super Bowl halftime show? Because that is my personal dream. It gives like the Stanford, you guys know the Stanford mascot, how it's like a tree and it's a different person from their band every week that has to go dress up as the tree and like dance around at their stuff. This is my dream.
Your dream is to be a tree?
To be a tree at the Super Bowl halftime show off a gummy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think she specifically said loaded on THC while also dressed as a tree is the specific
because
context.
Sometimes when I'm high in public, I get anxious. But if I'm hiding in that and I get to just stand there and vibe and listen to Bad Bunny and like not have actual real human thoughts, that is so ideal.
I mean, who's stopping you from doing that in your own house?
That's true. You could do that on the podcast. We won't judge you.
Yeah.
I do think that we should do a 420 episode.
Just dressed as trees. I did very minimal Bad Bunny research, and by research I mean just listening to a few of his songs that were popular, and either I didn't listen to them enough to recognize them, or he didn't play them last night. So
he played pretty much
old, Brandon.
Isn't
everything I thought he would.
That's definitely part of it, Stuckey. That Mia song, I was vibing to that on Saturday, and then he didn't even sing it. Right?
Also,
or did I miss it?
I don't what Mia song?
Mia, I'm not gonna sing it here. Mia, that one.
I don't know.
That's his song with Cardi B. And
You're
she
talking
was
about
on
I
the
Like
stage.
It?
Oh, so speaking of Cardi B, there's Evan, can you clarify? So there's a huge controversy on the prediction markets with was Cardi B on stage or not?
Yeah.
I mean, definitely on stage. Yeah, what's the controversy?
All I gotta say is I got paid out. I took no, and there's more money in my account. But but
wasn't she on stage? What?
Yeah.
So I think they're saying technically she wasn't. I really don't want to look into it more because I feel like they're going to catch me and they're going to take my money away from me. So I just want to leave it alone and move on to college basketball. But I don't know.
Wait, was she not on stage? Like, was she not on stage? Was she just on?
I guess they're trying to say she like wasn't a performer, but I thought the bet was. I think that like I had the Gaga bet that lost because she obviously was a performer, but Cardi B, I'm guessing they said that she wasn't. And there was a lot of people on a lot of different shows who had action on that bet because they're like, why would she be on stage? She's there with Stephon Diggs, blah, 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 blah. But
was that the specific wording of the bet? Was it perform or appear on stage? Well, because she didn't perform.
Yeah, she did not perform. And I think that was the difference in the wager. But a lot of people screaming and yelling. Yeah.
Was that it was like, it had to be a performance. Also, I added into our notes that allegedly Cardi and Stephon Diggs broke up last night. I did do the research. They both unfollowed each other on Instagram. And
that's because
apparently he brought another girl back to his room last night after they all went out and she found out and freaked out, allegedly.
We're turning into TMZ here. I will say,
this is crazy.
how liquid were those on stage bets on the prediction markets, Evan?
Yeah, very. I mean, there's so much volume. There was a lot of
Now
money
that
in
is
all
like
of those
very dangerous
markets.
to me. Like,
Oh yeah, of course. I mean,
you
listen.
know, you used to be able to
Yeah,
bet these things, back in the day before legalized gambling. But you could, I mean, we could get like a $50 bet down, right? Like,
correct.
which no, they're not. You don't have to worry about insider trading. Like but as these markets get more liquid, I mean, how many people are involved in the actual production that are, workers at the stadium that know all these things?
So Gaga was definitely inside information because she was at like -500 and -600, which made little sense, and a lot of people obviously knew about that. But I believe me, like most of that is definitely a little insidery, which you could understand. But this one just had a lot of controversy, which is obviously making the market more public, if that makes sense.
If I
Yeah.
may, Evan, what motivated you to bet on this in the first place?
Sitting there talking with my wife and a few other people, and I was bored, and I wanted to kind of diversify my portfolio entering the Super Bowl. And that was honestly the funny thing is on our stream for our Playbook live show in the morning, I told everyone I had the no Gaga bet, which lost, but failed to tell people that I had the Cardi B bet, which now I guess won. And I'm taking that money and running.
This is shady. I think I learned that I'm not going to bet heavy on the Super Bowl, Thanksgiving, or Christmas next year. I'm going to keep it the same as I always do. I can't go ham for these anymore.
I hate the Super Bowl. I hate this, like, when as far any game during the whole year, the Super Bowl is one of my least favorite games, which is crazy to say. But there's 2 weeks leading up to one game. You're so sick of talking about, like, I'm talking to as someone who does content. You're so sick of talking about it, right? And then you have like the lead up to the game, and then there's the long halftime, and it's exhausting. I'm more excited about a random, Tuesday night MAC football game than the Super Bowl. So yeah,
We
but I'm
just
probably just
treat it so differently. I mean, I had 12 bets on this game.
That's what I'm
No,
saying.
well, I would never have 12.
yeah,
It could be the biggest game of the week in week 6. I would never put 12 bets on a game. That's
I did
stupid.
gen out in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's part of it. That's part of the fun. I mean, that's part of the fun. Like, it's hard to find. You're not gonna have like a huge edge on the side or total, I don't think, in the Super Bowl at the end of the year. So, yeah, I always did gen out and make a bunch of bets. That's part of the fun of it, like sweating the props. But obviously, I got everyone wrong, so maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I like going out a winner. That did not happen here. All right, guys, let's plant our flag presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Now, obviously, we have no game next week, sadly, to plant our flag on, but let's plant our flag for 2026 or for the champion of that will be in 2027, whichever direction you guys want to go on this. If you want to go Super Bowl, just a quick tidbit on that. Seattle, as I mentioned earlier, tied with the Rams at plus 950 to win the bowl, followed by the Bills at 11-1. The Eagles, Ravens, and the Patriots are next at 13-1. Kendra, what are you looking at for 2026?
I didn't take this as a plant your flag for a Super Bowl situation. I took it as like a plant your flag on a team that you think is going to be a lot better next year. And it might be a little dead to say now, but I've been saying it for quite some time, so I'm going to continue to lap on this. I think the New York Giants are going to be sick. That defensive line is baller. People like to make jokes that Jackson Dart and Cam Scatabo are going to have the most electric 5-year career ever. I totally agree. The coaching's going to help. Their draft positioning's going to help. I think that the New York Giants are going to be so good next year.
They clearly got a huge coaching upgrade. That's going to be one of the teams that we give a huge tick up to because of who they added. You mentioned the draft implications. They picked 5th in what should
They
be
don't need a
loaded,
quarterback, though.
exactly, and it's a loaded class outside of the quarterback position, so that should help them as far as some of the skill positions go, or if they want to add another piece to a defense that should be a lot better. I like that look. That will be definitely be a team Where did they end up finishing? I guess they finished in last place in their division, so they're also going to be fortunate enough to get that easy schedule. So we saw how beneficial that can be. I like that look. Stuckey, what about you? Where will you plant your flag? Whether it's for the season, a team that you like, or the Super Bowl?
I have no idea. I haven't even started to think about or look at next year. I will plant my flag on Kansas beating Arizona tonight, handing them their first loss in Lawrence. That's my plant the flag for today. Mark it down.
What's the line on that game?
I think Kansas +2 at home, and Darren Peterson. As long as he plays, I don't know. Sometimes they just he doesn't play in the second half of games. I think his people call down and say don't play, but he played like the entire game against Utah on Saturday. So, but if he plays the whole game, Kansas beats Arizona tonight. That's my plan. My flag.
I kind of like that idea of just planting a flag on something entirely different. I do have the Heat -7 tonight, so if you want to go the NBA route, I'm gonna go with the Falcons. I already placed the bet on it, 75-1 to win the Super Bowl. Now here's the thing.
This is literally
they're getting arrested. They don't know a quarterback. Like
I love you to death, but you are literally being like, you know what? Tread on me, daddy, and handing the sports book your wallet.
I mean, I still think they're in pole position to win the
NFC South. Yes, James Pierce did get arrested. It doesn't look good for him and his future. He had 10.5 sacks last year. Their quarterback situation is in flux, but we go back to the coaching upgrade. I think they get a massive coaching upgrade with Stefanski, and I love the talent on that team, and I hate that division. So this is just about carrying a 75-1 ticket into the playoffs. That's the flag plant right there. Stuckey looks like he wants to vomit on his sweater right now.
I mean, at least go division. No one will let you down more than the Atlanta Falcons.
That's what I said when you put it in and we talked about it the first time. I was like, why not just the division? And even that is dumb as shit.
Where are the Broncos? I think the Broncos are like 18-1. That might not be a bad idea for Super Bowl.
The Saints might f around and win that division next year.
It's a sneaky tough division because everyone is just like the same. No, everyone is like
true.
The same.
The most money I made this year was on that division.
They're all just like middle class, like just vying for a promotion.
Another one that I think is interesting. So I mentioned the Broncos. What about the Chiefs at 15-1? You are never going to get the Kansas City Chiefs any cheaper than that. So that's
I think that they're like, even though they have a better draft position this year, they still are just too old and need to retool. Like, I don't think it's going to be this year. I think if they're going to be a good team again and make like a decent run, it's going to be next year. I get that the schedule they're going to pull is probably going to be favorable this year, especially at those odds. But they just need to change too many old people over.
They are. I think they're going to get really aggressive in the offseason, and they're going to end up catching some hype when they do that. We're going to forget about the bad times. Our producer just said he's not
making a Falcons Super Bowl quick slip in the YouTube description because no one would ever click that. So I kind of agree.
That's fair. You know what? Maybe they're getting longer odds now that
people
James
said
Pierce
I was crazy for the
arrested.
Panthers, though. So you know what? More power to you, sister.
Thank you.
Who do you think is, if you had to, you get a free $1 million risk free if you name both Super Bowl participants next year, and you got to choose right now. Nothing happens.
Obviously, Atlanta. No,
Atlanta and so you're going Atlanta Chiefs? Is that who you would go with?
No. We did. I didn't know we were getting
$3 million.
I didn't know we were getting. I'm trying to make $1 million. I'm not trying. I didn't know we were getting $1 million for free here. That changes
for free if you get it right.
Here.
If you get it right, who would you go with?
I'm gonna say the Ravens. And
look at you trying to get on my good side.
Was I on your bad side?
No,
I'm gonna say the Ravens and 49ers.
I'm gonna say I want to say the Jags, but I'm gonna say
Jags Twitter's already going crazy with the logo of next year being hints at Jags Cowboys. So that's what has been running all over Jags Twitter this morning.
This is tough. I don't know what's gonna happen with the Rams. I want to say the Rams, but
They have the shortest odds along with Seattle. So if you were just playing the odds game, the Rams would be the right choice.
I also wanted to say the Rams, but I feel like Stafford, this was his last year of like being old and good. Next year, he might just be like old and mid.
I'm going to answer the question. I'm curious to see where Stuckey goes to. I just want to get this thought bubble popped here. I think Washington is going to be sneaky next year. They were so overhyped going into this season. Jaden Daniels is still a really good quarterback. I think that could be a team that returns to being on the rise. The Chargers are interesting because of the moves they made.
Such a dummy.
Who's the dummy?
Dan Quinn.
Their defense is so old and slow. They need to do a lot on the defensive side of the ball. I'm gonna go Chargers Rams.
In LA?
And the Super Bowl's in SoFi.
It's literally in LA. Could you imagine?
Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
All 37 of their fans would show up.
Fine, I'm going Jags Rams.
Oh, that was a quick switch up. Okay, he's going Jags Rams.
Look at us picking each other's teams.
Yeah,
this is so cute, guys.
No one's gonna pick the Dolphins, though. Sorry, Brandon.
I would judge you if you did.
Quinn Ewers in the Super Bowl.
I'll go with the Chiefs. They're going to be doubted all year. This is when you want to buy with my free $1 million. And
take the Falcons.
Not the Falcons. I'll take Seattle to get back there. As hard
Falcons,
as that is.
Dolphins, book it.
Chiefs, Seahawks for me. How about that? All right, guys, that was a lot of fun. That's going to do it for today's episode. Special thanks to our producers, David Payne and Gifford Gould. Evan Abrams is busy counting his Cardi B money.
Investigate
right now.
Evan Abrams.
The favorites will return on Thursday afternoon.
Wait, you guys do that before we go. Do you guys want to see the baby? We haven't had the baby.
Yeah.
Let me get him.
I want to see the baby.
It would not be a Monday after the Super Bowl without some baby action.
Stuckey 4 needs to see a better Super Bowl next year. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah,
that's a tough first Super Bowl for Stuckey 4.
We should let the baby do like the helmet picking for next year.
Yeah,
it'll be the baby versus the
he's in his
baby.
Oh, he's hungry.
Wow, Stuckey 4.
I can't afford.
Kind of looks like Drake Maye.
After my best
do you think I could? You think I could convince him to take the Falcons' future next year?
He's not going to listen to me. So
okay.
He's young and impressionable, Kravitz.
But this is him. He's cute.
So cute.
Hey, baby, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate it, Stuckey 4.
That's it for me.
For the baby, for Stuckey, Kendra, Evan Abrams, that'll do it for us. We'll see you next time here on The Favorites presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours.